Hi guys, Darth Deuces here, back in our Star Wars The Black Series action figure review. Today taking a look at a brand new release that came out way earlier than I was expecting to. It is the new Dark Trooper Moff Gideon from Season 3 of The Mandalorian. I was pretty highly anticipating this figure. I really like the design of the armor that Gideon's wearing in the third season. And I was really surprised to see my GameStop pre-order had shipped. It's crazy. This and the Praetorian Guard shipped, but they still haven't shipped me my Commando droid, which is supposed to have come out sooner. So I don't know, kind of weird. But anyways, I've got Gideon here, and really cool figure actually. It was a really solid Black Series release. I figured it'd be pretty good, but I'm pretty impressed with it actually. But taking a closer look at the figure, looking at the head sculpt, this is a really nice sculpt. It's a really good likeness to Giancarlo Esposito. I didn't realize how off the old Black Series Gideon looked, but this one looks way better, and I'll do a comparison. Well, actually, I can just do the comparison right now. Here is the old Gideon with the new one, and I never thought the old one was bad looking, but the old one looks like a completely different person. The new one looks so much more like Giancarlo. It's a bit crazy. So yeah, the head sculpt much improved. The print's really clean. He's also not, he's a little glossy, but it's not too bad, honestly. Yeah, it looks really nice. I like it a lot. This is really good. The hair is nice too. They actually did put a bit of a gray brushing in there to make the hair look a little graying and aged, which is super cool. As you can see, he does feature a soft goods cape, which I am happy about because if this was plastic, he would just be a lot more immobile, and he does do a fair amount of, action scene fighting while looking like this. So I'm glad they went with soft goods. Black on the outside, red on the inside. The material's pretty nice. It's not too thin or anything like that. And then he does have his jetpack actually attached onto the back over the cape, which is cool and obviously makes sense. The jetpack, as far as I can tell, is not removable. I'm sure maybe you could heat it up, and with enough force, you could probably rip it out. I'm not going to bother. I'm honestly okay with it being glued on or whatever. Jetpacks half the time are a pain when they just fall off, and I'm never going to display them without the jetpack. So I'm okay with it being on them. And mostly just black plastic, but there's a little bit of red and silver paint on these little buttons there, or lights or whatnot. And you've got the thrusters, because they don't use the normal circle. They're not compatible with any thruster effects, unfortunately, but not a big deal for me. The rest of the armor looks really nice. You got some red on the shoulders there. You got this like Boba Fett style, like light number coating thing going on the chest piece with a little bit of silver in the middle. And I like how it's like a Mandalorianified version of his original kind of uniform, which is super cool. Shoulder pads, and those are on those O-ring between the joints, so they move with the shoulder. The chest piece is actually a soft plastic overlay. And then the rest of the armor looks pretty good. I like the glossy black and how it contrasts with some of the non-glossiness, sort of, I guess, of some of the other parts of the figure, like the midsection isn't glossy, which is cool. The gauntlets look pretty nice. This belt's pretty well painted. I like the red sash to break up the black a bit, and the silver looks good. It's got a holster, a bit more detail on the back. And then you got the legs armor, looks really nice as well. Not a ton of paint, there's a lot of glossy black, but I do like where it contrasts a bit with more matte black and whatnot. But it looks pretty good. I like it a lot. Looks solid. I just can't get over how good the head sculpt looks. I just can't believe how much better it is. It's a super big improvement. In terms of articulation, he has a dumbbell joint at the base of the neck as well as the head, so he looks up an okay amount, looks down a bit of pivot and rotation. I guess it could be a bit better articulated here, but not a big deal. Hinges at the shoulders, they move out quite a bit actually. They rotate. There is a butterfly joint in there, but because of the design of the figure, you're not going to get a ton of movement there, but it is there. So I like that the thought was there anyways. A single hinge at the elbow that moves past 90, which is nice. And he also has the new ball jointed wrists, so they can move any which way. I really like this. I hope more and more figures keep doing these type of ball joints in the wrist. They work so much nicer than most other. Sometimes the hinges can get deeper bends, to be fair, but I just like the universality of these types of ball joints, and they articulate really nicely. They're nice and smooth. He actually has two torso joints, one at the waist and one at the upper torso. So he actually goes back, arches back quite a bit. Forward, not so much, but a little bit. Pivot's a decent amount, and you do have rotation there. Ball joints at the hips, which go out actually quite a bit because his waist piece is a softer plastic, so they go out quite far. Back just a little bit. Pretty widespread. No thigh swivel, unfortunately. This is a figure where they definitely could have gotten away with it because of the armor. You could just hide the swivel in the armor. And I kind of wish they did. It feels a little awkward not having that. You do have the like more cutout hip joint, but you just don't get the same amount of motion there. Then you have single hinges at the knees that you can get about 90, so that's not bad. And then with ankles that go up, down, and then rocker for pivot. So you've got pretty decent articulation. I have no real complaints for the most part. Aside from maybe the swivel cuts at the thighs would have been kind of nice on this guy. I suppose one thing aesthetically I'm kind of just noticing now is because just the way the softgoods cape is actually stitched and attached onto the figure, it kind of flows up and floats up over his shoulders a bit instead of sitting more flatly on them. I'm not sure if there's any real way you can really fix that. It doesn't really bother me, to be honest, but it might bother some of you because obviously a cape probably wouldn't sit that way on most people. In terms of accessories, this figure actually comes with quite a bit of stuff. I'm kind of surprised. You do get the same little holdout blaster pistol that the original Moff Gideon came with. I believe it's the same thing. I think it might be the only reused piece on this figure. But that's okay, because he used the same pistol. It's just cast in a gray plastic, but it looks nice. He does have trigger fingers, I believe, yeah, on both hands, so you can have him holding it in any hand you want. But I'm just going to put it in his right, because that's where his holster is located. And he holds it nice and tightly, although it's a very tiny looking little pistol, so it seems not appropriate for his look here, wearing all this armor and then just having this little tiny pistol. But it is accurate. I believe he did have this. And the holster actually does have a working little strap there. It goes into the holster, and then you can plug the strap back on. The strap, luckily, isn't a pain to plug in. It plugs in really easily, and that keeps the pistol from falling out, and it looks good. So that's nice. I mean, that's probably never coming back out from there. Next up, you actually do get his staff, electro staff. You get two versions of it. You get it closed up in storage mode. You can have him hold that. Unfortunately, there's no place on the figure to actually store this. It would have been kind of cool if they just put like a loop on his belt and you could have it like slotted on his belt or something. I don't know. That would have been kind of nice, but it's still kind of cool they include it so you can have him hold it to make it look like he's getting ready to fight without actually having it extended yet. But of course, you do get the fully extended electro staff. It looks really good. Mine's a little warped, so I'm going to have to give it the heat treatment, but it shouldn't be too bad. Decent amount of paint on this. It has, I want to say it might have a different, it has gray painted here on the middle. It has just the normal silver cast plastic on the ends, and then you have a bit of black. You do have an electric effect piece here, which this might be reused. I'm actually not sure. I don't think it is, but it might be. Just in this light pink. You can actually remove it pretty easily, and then you can just slot it back on. Sometimes you got to fiddle with it a bit to find it in a spot where it won't fall off. But you attach it there. Again, you can have them hold it. That looks cool. You can hold it with both hands. I assume he'd have no issue holding it with both hands anyways. I don't want to take up too much time fooling with this. The hands are have quite the tight grip, more than I was really expecting them to have. There we go. So if you get it situated here, you can get them in a two-handed pose pretty easily. That looks good. I'm gonna get this out of his hand just for now to make things a little easier. And then lastly, he does have his helmet because he does wear one in the show, so it would be kind of really bad if they didn't include that. It is just a removable helmet piece, not an interchangeable head sculpt. I prefer removable helmet accessories when they work, and I think this one works, but the paint looks real nice. I really like the metallic red on the visor. Then you've got the more matte red on the cheeks there. I like the Darth Maul style Super Commando horns. That's kind of funny that design still kept persisting even after he was long done running them. And you put that on the head, it fits on actually really nicely. If you ever see any little bit of skin tone, it's just his neck. It does cover, if you have it on properly, it will cover his chin. His chin doesn't poke out or anything like that. It looks really good. I really like this. This is a badass design, not gonna lie. Season 3 was definitely not perfect by any means, but the Dark Trooper Mandalorian armor that Gideon wore was really badass. I'm not gonna lie, and it just makes for a badass action figure, to be honest. But yeah, that's pretty much it for the figure itself. Let's just do some comparisons real quick. His hinge is at the ankles do like the hinge forward a bit, which is kind of weird. So you kind of have to mess with those a little bit to get him to stand properly. But we kind of already did this comparison, but here he is with the previous Moff Gideon, which again, I don't think is a bad figure or anything, but the head sculpt is super much improved, and the new one's just an overall cooler figure, to be honest. But still, I like having the original one. Here he is with the Dark Trooper Deluxe from a few years ago now. You can see kind of where some of the design similarities come from, I guess, for the armor. Here he is with the Mandalorian. This is the Glavis Ringworld one, or the best Black Series one they've done so far. They look pretty good. Here he is with the Stormtrooper, the Super Commando, or whatever they call these guys, Imperial Super Commando. They look pretty good together. I like that Gideon's a little shorter, because I think he is a bit shorter than 6 foot. Although I would have almost assumed he would have been a bit taller wearing this armor, but maybe not. I'm not sure. And then lastly, here he is with the other figure that kind of released alongside him and kind of goes with him. Here is the new Praetorian Guard. And I think I'm going to have them displayed. So I'll have the Praetorian flanking Gideon, I think, but we'll see what I decide to do. But they look pretty good together as well. So overall, a really cool figure. I think this is actually a really solid release from the Black Series team. It's also one of those figures that feels really worth the price point. Again, I feel like a lot of the times Black Series struggle for me to feel worth the price, but like some figures I've reviewed lately, like Prince Shizor, the Deluxe Savage Opress even, have really felt kind of worth their price, and Gideon here does too. He's all new sculpt, he's well sculpted and painted, the likeness is really well done, soft goods cape, and a good array of accessories. Yeah, I see value here. So overall, if you're a Black Series collector, and especially if you're collecting the Mandalorian stuff, I highly recommend this one. I think it's kind of a must-have, honestly. And even if you aren't much of a Mando collector, it's just kind of a cool Star Wars action figure, to be honest. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. Let me know what you think down in the comments below, and I'll see you all in the next video. May the Force be with you.